Alright, today we're gonna take the fuel rail and the injectors out of a 94 Accord, Honda Accord EX. And then we're gonna check the fuel return to make sure that it's not blocked up. I couldn't find any other videos on YouTube with this information, so I'm gonna make one myself. Alright, so you need a 10mm socket to get the 3 nuts off that hold the fuel rail in. There's one here, if you can see it. Let's loosen up these 3 nuts. To get the nuts loosened up, what I do is I put all my hardware up here by the wipers so I don't lose it. After you get the 3 nuts off, I don't know if you can see, yeah, see there's one of them. After you get the 3 nuts off, before you remove the rail, you need to release the fuel pressure. Here's the fuel line in from the tank here. I'm going to use an adjustable wrench, and I'm going to slowly turn this nut and loosen it. Very slowly, because the fuel might squirt out depending on how high the pressure is. Make sure you put something under the car so that the fuel will drip on it instead of dripping on your driveway or wherever on the ground. Turn it very slowly. It's going to be a little tricky because you took the nuts out of the rail, but actually it'll probably be easier if you loosen up the pressure, let the pressure out first before you take the 3 nuts off of the fuel rail. So go ahead and do it like that. Don't do it the way I did it. Go ahead and get these little hoses out of the way. Alright, now let's try it again. Slowly turn this. Okay, got it. No drips yet. Okay, now the fuel's coming out. Okay, get your wrench out of there. Just let the fuel drip. Make sure your engine's cooled off before you try this. Okay, now that the fuel's dripped out, go ahead and take this nut off and put it up here with the other ones. And be careful here because you got 2 crush washers here that seal this. You do not want to lose these crush washers because they need to go back. See? Just the little aluminum washers. And when you take the hose off, there's going to be another one on the other side. See it there? Very careful not to lose that crush washer. There's the other one. Okay, now we can start going over here to where the fuel returns to the tank. I got my adjustable wrench on the nut for the throttle cable. Loosen it up. Get the wrench off. Of course, it's not enough. Do it again. Okay, now we got it. Loosen this up. And you gotta loosen up the other one all the way down to this little thing here. Hold it up and out. There we go. Then over here, Just wraps around here. That's where the throttle plate is. Just pop it off. And we'll just tuck it out of the way somewhere. Just don't bend the cable or anything. Okay, we're gonna have to get this hose out of the way to release this clamp. Pull it back. There we go. There, we pop that back. Just kind of leave it over there. And we got to get all these other hoses off. Make sure you remember where they go. Make a note of them or mark them with colors or something with different colored paint. That's what I do sometimes. Okay, and then this one here going to the EGR we got to take off. And this other one here. And these other two here. Okay, we got all these other lines disconnected now to get the rail out and the injectors out to take it out of the car completely. This little motor here just slips kind of on this little bracket here. We'll loosen that up. And right down here there's a metallic fuel line, which is the return line, and then it goes into a rubber hose here. So all you gotta do to get this thing out is disconnect this rubber hose from this metallic hose. And I don't know why there's a zip tie there. It's supposed to be a clamp or a hose clamp, but whatever, I'll fix that later. Just that's what you do, and then we'll be able to get this thing out of here to clean it up. Okay, now that you got that return line disconnected, you're going to slowly pull out the rail with the injectors, and be careful because there's rubber seals that you don't want to lose. Sometimes they might stick inside of the engine, or they'll stay attached to the injector ends. There's two. There's a bigger one and then there's a smaller one. And be careful when you pull them out too, because they might pop out of the rail because they're just held in the rail by a little rubber gasket. And so there might be some extra gas still on the line, and that'll leak out. So just pull these things out slowly so you don't lose your rubber seals. See that one there? The rubber seal is not staying in the block, and the other seal is kind of part ways on the injector. And also check these seals. If they're dry rotted, I recommend you go buy a new set. They're not that expensive. Just slowly pull these things out of here. This injector is separated from the rail, which is okay because I already drained out the gas. Something I just realized here. I have a problem trying to get this out of here. That return line hits on this bracket for that motor, so I'm going to take a 10mm and just take this nut out, this bolt out. Remove this bracket so we can get this thing out of here. Put your hardware up on the top of the car. Got everything else so we don't lose nothing. Alright, this has become a little more complicated. The wire harness is giving me a problem as far as taking the rail out, so we're going to have to disconnect the top portion that has the wiring for the injectors, and then disconnect each connector to each injector. And since I don't want to mix them up, I put paint, different colored paint on each one, so I'll be able to put them back in the same spots after I clean them. Okay, now got those two bolts out. Finally got the fuel rail out where we can take it out of the car and clean it out. And here's each of the injectors and the ends that were inside of the rail. Be careful and pull each one out very slowly because this piece here can pop out and get lost. It looks like. And then these are little tiny like filter screens. You're going to want to check each of those to make sure they're not clogged up with any type of debris or anything. I just changed the fuel filter in this car, so that's why I'm doing this. Got the fuel rail out. I'm not sure exactly what these two little things are on the ends, but we need to open them up so we can clean out everything. And I'm just gonna go ahead and spray some carburetor cleaner through this line here and everything to clean it out. Because again, this car is 20 years old and this has probably never been done. Just took this part off here. Looks like it's some type of release to check pressure or whatever, but the gasket here, if you can see it right there, it's got some damage. Not sure what. Looks like it was burned off, but there possibly could be leaking fuel through there. So that'll cause problems too. I'm going to go ahead and just put some gasket sealer on that when I put it back on. And then we're going to get the 10mm and take off this other one here. Got the other one off. Gasket looks good, but it looks like fuel's been leaking around it. Now that we got this apart, just gonna spray carburetor cleaner through all these areas in here to clean it out. Then we'll do the injectors. Fuel rail looks pretty clean inside actually. Just gonna spray some of this stuff in there. Let it sit in there, and then we'll turn it so it can drain out. Run it through there. Okay. Spray some in there. And that'll be it for the fuel rail. I'm going to show one of these injectors. Okay. Little filter in the top, pull it out. This one actually doesn't look too bad, but there is some crap in it. Instead of squirting it in where the fuel goes in, I'm going to clean it by squirting it on the outside of the filter to clean off any debris. You're going to want to take your cleaner and then spray it inside an injector here where the fuel squirts out. And in here, look at all that nasty stuff coming out of there. Okay, this is what I made to simulate the fuel rail pressure to clean out the injector. Piece of nylon hose. I had to shave the end of it with a knife to make it be able to fit inside of the injector here. First we're going to pump it up, put some pressure inside of the injector. I have it connected to a T-splitter right here. Now we're going to see if I can get it pressurized so I can connect the wires. Okay, it's holding the pressure, but starting to leak out. I'm going to go ahead and get my wires in here. And there we go. On each of the injectors, the connectors here, there's a little metal bracket. See it? You just, on each end, you just pop it off and over to get the connector off. And then you just reverse it to put the connector back on after you clean the injector. Alright, well, looks like I found the cause of the car running rich. And it wasn't because the return line was blocked. Got a bad fuel injector. Watch. See that? The injector is off, so when I put pressure in there, it shouldn't be spraying out at all. So that means when the car is on, it's constantly spraying gas in the cylinder, which just wastes gas, and it'll weaken the oil, because the oil will become full of gas. So definitely after this, gonna have to change the injector and change the oil. Got the new injector going to attach it to the connector. It's a little metal bracket I was talking about. See how it's shaped here? It goes on like that. Let's open it up. Push it down. Okay, now I got the injector back on. Now we're going to reconnect the injectors to the fuel rail. Here's the fuel rail. Before we reconnect the injectors, we need to put the filters back in. Injectors, you just grab the end here, and it's going to be a little tough. You got to shove it in inside the rail. Just do that for all 4 of them. Now we got to reconnect the wiring to the rail. There's 2 bolts that hold it to on. Just hand tighten them for now. The other one. Okay, we're gonna put the injectors on the rail here, just for now. Because this return line here is all dry rotted, so I gotta change that before I reconnect the fuel lines. We're gonna put the seals back on the other injectors so that we can pop them back in. You're gonna have to play with this thing to get it back in there. Gonna get the 3 nuts, tighten it back up. Get your 10mm, tighten up these 3 nuts. Do them simultaneously, because as you tighten them, the injectors are going to go in and those rubber seals are going to seal. Alright, we're getting snug. Okay, the injectors are back in. Now we gotta reconnect all the wires. Then we gotta reverse, put these little things back in hoses. And we gotta put the fuel inlet back in with the crush washers. I got this new hose I bought here. Got a hose clamp on it this time instead of that zip tie. And I gotta get something to cut this a little shorter. Tighten it up some before we put on the hose so it won't slip around too easy. A little more. I'm going to tighten this clamp up with a 1/4-inch socket. Now we're going to get the crush washers. Put one on here first. Very careful, don't drop it, because you might not find it. Got this line. These here, line it up with this on the fuel rail. Get the other washer. Now we got to get the nut that goes on the end. It's the other nut. Put it on hand tight for now. Start reconnecting your hoses. Over here, do your hoses over here. Now we got to reattach that bracket here to this motor. Just 110 millimeter. Now gotta reattach the throttle cable. Gotta tighten up this fuel line here. Attach some more hoses and then we'll be ready to prime it and check the engine will start up. This thing is a 17 millimeter. Okay, now we gotta take out the spark plug that was in that cylinder where the bad injector was. We're gonna use a 5/8 or 16 millimeter to get it out. Yep, spark plug's pretty dirty, so we're just gonna spray some carburetor clear on this, clean it up, put it back in. Got the plug cleaned up, looks a lot better. Now we gotta prime the fuel system. So we're gonna turn the key to the second position, but don't try to start the car yet. You'll see the check engine light come on. When that's on, the fuel pump is pushing gas up into the fuel rail. We're gonna do this 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're gonna go out to the engine and check for any fuel leaks before we try to start the car. We got a fuel leak here, and one of the injectors is leaking fuel. We're gonna have to address that. We got that leak fixed. One of the little rubber seals on the fuel injector that goes inside of the fuel rail was pinched. I think hopefully I was able to save it by working it back out with a pair of pliers. I put it back in, and it seems like it's working, hasn't leaked yet. So we're gonna start up the car and see, and then check it again as it's running for any fuel leaks.